Chris, your father just looked me dead in the eye and threatened to write a tell-all book.
Oh.
And I looked at him. I'm like, well, you've written 2 books already, and our audience has helped make them bestsellers, and Stugotz's book is killing it.
Yeah.
The audience has made all. We are single-handedly reviving the read a book in your hands industry. That's right now. You've got to. One has to assume, right, that Kindle is doing better than just books, right? Just than all books in terms of the publishing industry versus Kindle. Kindle has to be doing better, right?
I would be very curious about that. I'm going to find out from you. I'm going to ask my source at my publishing house to get that information.
Let's do it this way. How many people do you know that own a Kindle versus how many people do you know that own one book?
I know a lot of people who own books, but only because I know a lot of old people.
I've never seen a bookshelf full of Kindles, but I've seen a bookshelf full of books.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
Thank you, Billy.
You have a source inside the book community, huh?
I do, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. He can give me that, pretty much that exact answer, which I'm curious about. But I want to say one thing, and I don't mean to offend the Kindle crowd.
But a Kindle is a bookshelf that you don't see.
What do you mean?
What are you talking about?
It's a digital bookshelf.
Bunch of books in there.
So
It's not. No.
If you're
Isn't it?
listening to
I
a
don't
book,
have one.
If
I've
you're
heard.
listening to a book, you're not reading a book.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
show
we're not
again.
doing this
You
again.
haven't read a book.
Okay.
If
Chris,
you've
did you
listened
nail
to a
your
book-
Kindle to the wall on accident?
Can you not have multiple books in your Kindle?
if you get different Kindles,
Well, yeah,
I think you guys are screwing with me here.
Well,
I don't know because I've never had
What's
Kindle.
the limit for books in my Kindle that I can have?
maybe 2.
yeah.
Maybe.
I would assume that it's just the number that you can download. I don't.
2.
I still read. I want the book in my hand. I still want to do
Yes,
it that way.
thank you.
I don't like reading books on
Same.
computers.
Yeah. Right.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Do you like reading books on your computer? Because I can't do it, and I don't know if this is just creature of habit. You like what you like, you're familiar with what you're familiar with, and then you get to a certain age and you don't want to change anymore. But I've tried Kindle, and I don't like it. That's not how I want to read a book. And I don't know if this has something like taste and texture, where I'm speaking to a bunch of young people perhaps that don't know or care what it feels like to have a book in your hand, because that's not the way they do it. And so because they're not familiar with the way I do it, the Kindle's the most normal thing in the world.
Right. I like the tactile feel of actually turning a page, the sound of pages being turned, and also the bookmark. You know, you can have an official, actual bookmark. I just rip a corner off a piece of paper, and that's a bookmark. You know, you create your
stick
own
it in there?
bookmark.
Yeah, right.
And it enhances the enjoyment of reading
Right.
an actual book.
You don't fold a corner over at the
the old
page
dog
where-
ear, yeah. I
I
don't,
don't like
it.
doing
Doesn't
that.
respect the book.
I like a pristine page.
Right.
Yeah. For sure. That's,
I like to
that's very
feel
important.
the print of the letters also sometimes. It's almost my own version of Braille. I don't know how to read Braille. I respect anyone who can.
Right.
But sometimes I'll go over the pages and just kind of feel it. Sometimes the words, I don't know if it's the word that's sharp or the ink that's sharp, but sometimes I feel like a little cut almost on my finger when
Wow.
you go over it. Yeah.
I've never done that.
Oh, you got
Are you reading off of a literal stone tablet?
No. My Kindle.
Oh, okay.
Stone tablet.
That reminds me that our bathroom signs here in our offices have Braille, but they don't actually have texture to it.
Yeah.
It's just Braille that's printed on.
Huh.
You
Tough
can
to read.
only see it.
Yeah. That's not great, but I don't believe we've ever had anyone here who would need to use it. So I guess
Isn't that the lamestream media? Just the optics of us caring.
but you're saying that metaphorically, right? On optics, because it's not.
I think
Looks
it's
like we're prepared.
it might be
Just,
like
you know.
building code required to do it, but I guess like the follow through of actually making it Braille, like for real, as opposed to something that looks like Braille.
But if it's only Braille to sight, it is fundamentally useless.
That's right.
It's not.
But it's there.
it is-
That's the important part.
It's not just virtue signaling. It's only virtue signaling. Like it doesn't have any other practical purpose.
You got it.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. Yeah. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls better tell me I'm awesome. Yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. You can't go out, motherfucker, get by peace. You take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. Yeah, I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but minds keep walking. Yeah, just too sharp with the prize. White girls better tell me I'm awesome. Yeah, hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
I don't know how much we have left like this in sports now that Nick Saban has left Alabama and Floyd Mayweather is no longer fighting. But tuning in to watch a team lose and tuning in to a game that you don't care about at all because you're assuming that Cooper Rush can't do anything, but you do enjoy laughing at the disgraced brand of the Dallas Cowboys that now is at the bottom of a division with a team that just benched its quarterback for financial reasons more than football reasons. And we're going back to Tommy DeVito. This is not what Jerry Jones had in mind when he said they were all in on this season.
But people are talking about his team, Dad, and he cares about that deeply.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're talking about his team, but they're talking about his team in the worst ways. And now we will go back to the conversation of should the old man be in charge? Because his fingerprints are all over that, and his ego is all over everything there more, and they're broken. And it's not just that they're physically broken at quarterback. We've been questioning that team plenty before they gave that quarterback the money. So now what? Because the Dallas Cowboys season is over. They exist last night on primetime television only for us to laugh at them. They have now lost. I told you this before. It had never happened in the history of the sport. Down 20 plus 5 straight home games. Now it's 6. Like, you don't see anything this bad in that sport. It's the Cowboys and it's Jacksonville. Like,
Right.
And it's not even the Panthers anymore this way, where it's like, oh, you're playing at home and you can't come from within 20 at home. Like, you don't have a chance against real football teams.
When you ask what's next, they're a year removed from being 12-5. So whether or not you think Jerry should give up power of that team and decision-making power and overseeing everything, he's not going to do it. So what's the point of having that conversation? They are a year removed, with Jerry doing it, from being 12-5. When you say what's next, Jerry's going to have to change the way, his approach to hiring head coaches. Like, he's tried it with Mike McCarthy. He's tried it with puppets. Now be the puppet. Let a guy like Belichick walk in and do what Bill Belichick
he
does.
Didn't like that when he did it with Parcells. They finished 12-5 3 straight years, but McCarthy's beginning to resemble Wanstead to me, where
That's fair.
Wanstead was going 10-6 and 11-5 as well, but what? The thing just kept getting worse on his watch until it collapsed. It collapsed with a 4-12.
Yeah, when you keep having great regular seasons and then don't do a lot in the playoffs, it almost makes the hurt worse. The only asterisk on behalf of Mike McCarthy is that his starting quarterback is lost for half the season, which is not nothing. But last night, they're behind 20-10, fairly late in the game. They have a chance to go for a field goal to make it 20-13, a one-score game, and he goes for it on like 4th and 13 or something and doesn't make it. That's a bad coaching decision. It just is. In retrospect, and even then, I'm saying, be behind by 1 score. Give yourself a chance. You got 4. I'm shocked that Jerry Jones hasn't fired Mike McCarthy.
He told Diana Russini that he's not doing that in season. That he won't do it in season.
That gives him everything he wants. It gives him attention. It gives him the feeling of power that he's making a bold move. I don't know what the forward path is with the status quo.
He should fire his structural engineer first because there's pieces of metal falling off the ceiling.
Yeah, that was
a lot of people making the jokes about the roof falling in, right? Because that that looked like it could have been much worse
my
than
God.
it actually was. Just a piece of metal falling from the sky.
And then there was a second one that they had to bolt down on the catwalk before the game could start because they were afraid that one was going to fall.
Is this just debris from whatever it is that they were doing for Jake Paul and Mike Tyson? Like, is this like, why would the roof be falling in the middle of a Monday night game?
It was apparently the first time that they had opened up the roof in quite some time. So I guess over the extended break from actually opening
Rusty.
it, some pieces fell.
Where are you guys on the Houston Texans? They're one of the good teams, right? As long as their wide receivers are healthy, they're one of the good teams?
For me, they're not the top 4 in the AFC. I think they're a good team that is very, very far from being a great team, although Joe Mixon.
Very, very far from
Yeah,
being a good
I think they're far from being a great team. I don't think they're Baltimore. I don't think they're Kansas City.
do they have the same record as Baltimore right now?
They made it to the divisional round last year.
It could be.
I don't think they're very far. Maybe I'm more bullish than them, but I think them with their full complement of receivers. I know Diggs is injured now too, but Nico Collins does make a difference.
Yeah, he
there.
does. He's
A big
really
difference,
good.
yeah. Both teams are 7-4, Dan.
Yeah, he's really good. And Joe Mixon, to me, has been the difference in that offense. He is reinvented. He's having his best season at like age 28, which is ancient for a running back. But you're right. If they still had Stephon Diggs, they would be an awesome offense.
All right, what's Cody doing here between good team? I want to do this because I think you're all doing it. I think everyone listening to this does it, where they're saying they do their brackets and their tiers. What is he doing where he's saying that the Houston football team is just okay, is what he's saying. He's saying they're very, very far from being one of the best teams in the league, and I don't think they are.
I like to say they're good with a chance to be great. That's what I like to say. They're good. There's no doubt that they're good. They have a chance to be great if everyone's healthy.
I think they're second-tier good in the AFC in a category with the Los Angeles Chargers. I don't think they're Baltimore and Kansas City.
I think we need to go through their schedule, Dan, and determine the good wins and then the good losses. Because
That's a
they have a
great
lot
idea.
of bad wins. Like, they've beaten the Patriots and the Jaguars and the Bears, but they also have one really good win against the Bills. So what do you do with that?
I don't know. I don't know what Cody is doing with the Chargers. Okay, this was a stat Adam Schefter put out over the weekend. The Chargers went into the weekend allowing 13.1 points per game. It is the the second time in 20 years that a first-time coach has had the lowest point total on defense. The other time that it happened was when Harbaugh also was with the 49ers in 2011 or 2014. And I didn't think of him as a defensive coach. Do you guys think of Jim Harbaugh, as a defensive coach? Because he's a quarterback, I think of him as an offensive and a quarterback coach. But he's now had these two defenses, and I don't think what Cody's doing is fair to the Chargers. I think the Chargers are a very good football team with the best defense statistically going into the weekend in the league.
I'm looking at the league and the standings. Not that I need to because I know the AFC. Buffalo's better. Pittsburgh is better for me. Baltimore is better, and Kansas City is better. I think any of those 4 teams would be favored over Houston on a neutral field.
Jim Harbaugh came into the league as a guy reputed to do really well with quarterbacks. He had Josh Johnson in San Diego when he was in the college ranks ascending. Then he had Andrew Luck, and then what he did with Colin Kaepernick. So that became his identity a little bit. But then in college, he showed you the type of football that he wants to play, which is very complimentary of a hard-nosed defensive style.
The Chargers also have a better record because they already had the bye, so they're 7-3 as opposed to 7-4.
Right. But you do have to factor in the conference. I think that's fair. The AFC is a much more difficult conference. If the Chargers were playing in the NFC, I think a lot of people would feel like they have a much better chance of making a deep run in the playoffs.
I'm a big Texans guy, though, to put a bow on it. Will Anderson being in and out of the lineup, I think defensively they have enough pieces. I really highly rate their head coach and his ability to scheme on the defensive side of the ball. And they have offensively a ton of weapons. When they have a full complement or close to a full complement of those weapons, I think they're as threatening as anyone inside that conference to pluck one of those guys that you consider tier one.
Mm-hmm. When they don't, though, C.J. Stroud has proven he right now can't get them past it without all of his weapons.
That is true, but it's been a season and a half, so give him a minute. We've changed the way.
We're not writing him off. It's just C.J. Stroud has regressed slightly his sophomore season, and he's shown that without all of his weapons healthy, he struggles a little bit.
There is no question about that. He has not been the sensation this year, the first half of the season, that he was last year. But I just caution everybody about how we're doing some of these measurements on these quarterbacks more quickly than we have ever done them, so that Anthony Richardson has played like 9 games and we're already like 9 games total, college, pro, everything. And we're yanking him in and out and making assessments very quickly on this stuff. C.J. Stroud was the sensation of last season, raises the expectations, and as soon as his people get hurt, now Cody's saying they're very, very far from being a good team when they've got the same record as Baltimore. That's how it happens when we start moving around. Oh, the quarterback's playing a little less well. Yes, you did say they're very far from being one of the top-tier teams. I think you said very, very far, actually.
Let's replay the tape on that one.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Replay the Kindle.
He said they're good, not great, which is not crazy. I mean, everyone can't be great.
I think they're good, not great. They're second tier to me.
Okay, the thing that I find interesting about how it is that we do these evaluations is if you're willing to concede to me that a team in this sport is one of the good ones, one of the 10 you think are good, then they're close.
Okay, that's fair.
Well, because, I mean, all you got to do is end up winning small sample size games, and next thing you know, you can be one of these teams that, Eli Manning's its way into a Super Bowl.
I'm just saying, for me, Houston is not a great team. I think Denver would have a great chance against Houston. I mean, they're.
All right, you lost me.
I think Cincinnati. The way Joe Burrow's playing, I don't care what their record is. They would have a chance against Houston.
Yep.
Bo Nix has been good this season.
He's been really good, yeah.
He's the it guy now.
Yeah.
He went from being, should they have drafted him at all? And now he's the it guy. I haven't looked at the Offensive Rookie Player of the Year betting odds lately, but Nix is shooting up the charts.
Greg, would you be surprised if the Texans were playing in the AFC Championship game?
I would.
But how?
Because I think there's 4 teams better.
Okay, but if someone gets surprised,
Upsets happen.
I mean, what it would surprise anybody if Houston knocked off a Pittsburgh?
Yeah, it would surprise me.
Okay.
Huh.
I mean, but they'd have to knock off a Pittsburgh and a Buffalo. That's, I think, what surprises Greg, is they'd have to go through 2 good teams to get to the AFC Championship.
They beat Buffalo already. I mean,
do you guys agree with the assessment that if you're one of the top 10 teams, you're close?
In this season, with parity the way it is, I would agree with that. I don't think they're a bad team. I don't think they're an average team. I think they're a good team. But is there really a long shot among the good teams?
Well, the Vikings are a top 10 team. Do you feel like they're close?
See, I don't think the Vikings have any real
I agree.
shot at
Yeah.
the
I don't like
championship.
their quarterback, and I've told you I don't like their quarterback, and I don't like any of the teams who don't have a good quarterback to win a bunch of playoff games and playoff games on the road and then win the Super Bowl. What I'd like to see is Lamar Jackson get to the Super Bowl so he can have the comfort of playing against an NFC team, because the teams that he plays against a lot, like Pittsburgh, he does not play against well,
Right.
and he ravages everybody in the NFC.
He could get the Lions, though. I mean,
I think we're coming down too hard
love
on
to see that game.
Yeah.
I think we're coming down too hard on Greg for saying that they're a tier 2 team in his AFC. I think tier
I agree.
1 is 2 to 3 teams, and
Greg's being fair.
Houston's right there among those the upper level tier 2 teams. But to get to an AFC Championship game, assuming they win their division, all they have to do is win 1 road game against the likes of a Pittsburgh or a Kansas City. And I think the AFC has shown you, even Kansas City is as good as they've been. They're in tight games. If you play Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, as Houston did last year, that can be close, as Lamar has shown throughout his playoffs. So I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility at all.
The question is, if the Texans are in tier 2, are the Dolphins also in tier 2, Greg? Because are you putting them in tier 3?
Yeah,
now?
they're in tier 3.
Oh, okay.
They're in
Even
tier
though they're
3,
about to be 6 and 7,
Yeah,
right?
if they
5 and 6.
they're going to beat New England. If they win Thanksgiving
5
night
and
in
6.
Green Bay,
Yep.
So funny.
they're the sneaky tier 2 team.
This
That's
is
what
so
everybody's
funny.
worried
I
about.
Sneaky tier
I
2.
can't
Yeah.
believe
Yes.
what I just saw.
Sneaky.
It was out of the corner of my eye, right? It's Billy and Stugotz, and it's a bit like whack-a-mole. It's like, oh, tier talk?
Yes.
We're
Took
gonna
us
do
20
tip.
years,
We just
Dan,
call
but
it
we're here.
T1s, T2s, T3s.
What he did was not tier talk. What he did was say very, very far from being one of the best teams. There were two varies. That's
No.
a different
Take back.
No, it's
conversation.
a double vary.
It's a different
I regret having
conversation.
said that.
The tiers is one conversation. I'm not doing that with you guys, but if you guys want to do a double very situation conversation, I will have that conversation with you. We've been having it for 10 minutes.
I don't use double vary.
You
No.
did.
No,
I
You
don't
did
think
get-
so.
I want to hear the tape.
Okay, we're going to go back. And when I do it, okay, we're going to
Okay.
punish you at the end of the show today. When
Fine.
we play that tape, there's going to be a punishment at the end of the show that you're going to find out that you got this wrong because it is specifically what it is that I'm objecting to.
I think you're very, very wrong.
Okay, thank you. You already have it? Wow, that was quick. They already have the sound of what it is that Greg Cody has alleged.
This is big. Everything is on the line right now, Greg. I mean,
Well, he doesn't know when it is that he uses these verbal crutches to get to his thought because he does it quite a bit with inefficient language, and I'm watching him
What do
at
you
all
mean?
times.
That kind of thing. I think they're a good team that is very, very far from being a great team. Okay. Through technology, the second vary was
Yep.
spliced in.
Correct.
yep, you can
His,
tell.
his
Yes.
mouth didn't line up with
I
that.
reject that. That was you spliced in the second
Yeah.
vary.
No,
Chris is good at that.
It's not AI. I
He
can't
is.
believe they found it that fast. That's a miracle.
It's almost
Yeah,
suspicious.
what a miracle.
You think they were able to also edit it that
Yes.
fast to
I agree.
misrepresent
It's
you?
AI. Yes.
On a bad
Artificial-
arm week, they're doing this to
All
you.
right, so you're saying this feels like a dubbed, subtitled movie. I want you
Correct.
to watch your lips here because you think the AI also altered your lips.
I think they're a good team that is very, very far from being a great team. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
he
Hey,
was
hey,
saying far during that second very. I mean,
technology can do just about anything.
All right, we punctuate the show today with Greg Cody's punishment. I'm going to determine it secretly, and we will get to it by the end of the show because he got it wrong. But let's not talk about the good teams. Let's talk about the bad teams, and let's talk about specifically what the Jets have done to Mike Francesa. Listen to Mike Francesa here. The internet is accusing him of being broken.
We made two plays. How did we make two plays? We don't even know how we made two plays, but we're up 14-13. Let's go. Let's get Fireman Ed up.
I heard Fireman Ed. I heard let's go. I heard there was a lead, and then the whole Jet season collapsed again as it does every Sunday. Play that again.
We made two plays. How did we make two plays? We don't even know how we made two plays, but we're up 14-13. Let's go. Let's get Fireman Ed up.
he still got it. I mean,
It doesn't feel right to me. I don't know the correct way to do this, to end your career, but I thought he was retiring, and it doesn't feel right to me to watch him shouting into a microphone after a Jets game by himself, and it doesn't seem like he's in a radio studio. I don't know if that might be in his house. It probably is in his house.
I think he does a daily podcast. I think he does.
He
right.
does do a daily podcast, but
He
there's
should have a better ending, you're saying?
There's something about, well, he already retired. This happened, we just saw this happen in the Yankee booth in his 80s, where once you retire at a certain age, it's what Bobby Bowden said. There's only one major event where people gather after that for you. So you stare at your retirement after a creature, as a lifetime creature that talks 6.5 hours a day on the radio. And then you go into retirement and it sounds awfully quiet, and you have to come back to hear the sound of your own voice.
Well, he loves that. I mean,
Well, but he retired, so at one point he was done with it, right? And like, they love sports. Both those guys love sports. There are any number of people who have been in this business for a long time who do not love sports. So you see the enthusiasm that's genuine on Russo anytime you hear him talk, when you hear him on First Take. But there's something about seeing Francesa. That's a legend right there.
yeah, no doubt.
And it feels like you're listening to him from a bus terminal, and it just it doesn't feel right to me. And I know that sounds judgy, but that guy's had a monster career, and so it just I don't know where he is physically doing that, but it doesn't seem like it's a studio. It seems like it might be in his home, and so It does feel judgy, though, right? I shouldn't be doing that. But it makes me actually a little bit sad.
Yeah,
Well,
I think this is a real bad look for you.
Yeah, Mike is 60-something years old. He is doing it from his house on most occasions. I think Mike has it figured out. He comes on, he gives 30 minutes of hot takes about New York sports. He gets paid a lot of money to do the podcast, and then he goes golfing. I mean, that's his day.
Get your money, legend.
Yeah,
what
good
you
for
do
him.
at the final third of your illustrious career is your business, and I'm sure you have your fans. And if you have a studio in your home, more power to you.
I do sort of mourn the death of impartiality, or even the pretense of impartiality, because the one thing I heard there most was our Jets and we're this, we're. It's fine. He can be a Jets fan. Stugotz is a Jets fan.
He's actually not a Jets fan. I think he just has 25 years of covering the Jets, and he's frustrated by the Jets because they make the same mistakes, a calamity of errors every single year.
I'm curious why you're lobbing that at him. You're famously like a Dolphins fan. You root for your home teams.
No, that's not true.
No.
He does it in the shadows.
It's well known that I grew up a Dolphins fan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, but I don't refer to the Dolphins as we on air. In print, I certainly don't. Le Batard might disagree. I try not to come off as a homer. I try to come off as someone who looks at the team fairly.
Okay.
With an impartial vantage.
I don't think this is the one criticism of you I've never understood, the homerism, the Greg is only rooting for the Dolphins. You tried to trade away the franchise's greatest player ever. What homer on earth would do that?
That's fair. Billy's got it right. That was a direct hit, Billy. Thank you. There you
All right,
go.
so I will make the argument on the other side, because while Greg Cody doesn't say we when talking about the Dolphins, although his son does, and while Greg Cody aspires to objectivity, I know that every Sunday and Monday that the Dolphins happen to play since the beginning of time, he thinks they're going to win, and he wants them to win. So he's wearing this cloak of objectivity. Greg,
Wrong.
It is not wrong to say that you almost always pick them to win, almost always think they're going to win, and you're always rooting for them to win.
The first two, I would have to look up the numbers on that. Certainly, I haven't picked them to win every game this year. But for you to say I'm rooting for them to win is flatly wrong. I'm not. My wife is.
You're
Somebody else in this
abstaining.
room might be.
You're eating chips and drinking Miller Lite, and you're abstaining from having an interest when watching in the game who wins? That's what you're claiming here on air. You're going to stare at us and lie and say that you are actually watching objectively.
Yeah, and you're lying by suggesting otherwise. And believe it or not, you may disagree. I know more about what I'm feeling and thinking than you do.
Let's talk to your mom about this, Chris, because she knows
Good.
more than both of us.
I invite that.
Wow, man.
I think you guys are playing with fire. I've seen
You
these
really
things go
are.
sideways with Greg. Like you're
Yeah.
calling into question his integrity as a journalist,
Yeah.
and he's going to start taking this personally.
I take it personally already.
He's playing on the back end of a back-to-back on a bad arm week.
Yep.
I think
Thank
you
you.
should
Leave the
probably
man alone.
just
Started with the AI stuff with his mouth.
going down a direction that you're not going to be able to come back from, pal.
You know what I do root for? I root for what I think would be a column I want to write. Okay.
Them winning.
Okay.
You stepped on the landmine, my friend. They've been warning me, and you didn't see that there was a landmine there.
That's what he's getting to.
What I'm getting to is if the Miami Dolphins come back from their terrible record and somehow reach the Super Bowl for the first time in 40 years, yeah, I would like to write about that. That would be a wonderful story.
Clicks for Cody.
When the Dolphins went 1-15
Yep.
Back in 07 or whenever it was, that was pretty interesting to write. That calamity. The worst thing to write is a 500 team, a boring team. I root for what I want to write. If that happens to be the Dolphins winning, because I think that's the best story to write, and if I want to write that Tua, in his first game back from a concussion, single-handedly won a game and put up a middle finger to everybody who doubted him, yeah, that's something I want to write. It doesn't mean I'm cheering for it.
Wow.
Let's play again the sound. This was Greg Cody
frosty.
earlier in the show. We'll
That's
get back to
fire.
that in a second. Greg Cody earlier in the show, not altered at all. We have the proof. He will be punished by the end of the show.
I think they're a good team that is very, 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 very far from being a great team.
So Greg Cody is enraged, and this might be a silly thing, because I happen to believe that objectivity is an illusion, It's not a thing that humans can actually be. It's only a thing they can aspire to be.
I agree with you.
And so that's what your father's doing. He wants the Dolphins to win and has to hide it somewhere. From himself, from everybody. He wants them to win. He's wanted them to win since he was a kid. You don't actually put that away anywhere. You just try to write about him fairly. Umpires, referees, they have their biases. You try to put them, judges, they have their biases. You try to put them aside to do something that's factual, and he's trying to do something that's objective. But you're in no way actually objective. You're just trying to be it.
Well, when somebody asks, what's one of your goals as a columnist, you don't say to be objective anymore because you're right. Objectivity is almost an impossible task if you have human feelings, particularly if you've grown up a Dolphins fan. Fairness is what I aspire to. And I want to be fair in everything I write. I don't want to come off like a cheerleader. I don't think I do, despite you trying to paint me as that. And I know what I know in my heart. And if you want to say that I root for the Dolphins to win every game,
your heart
go ahead,
is
I can't
aqua.
refute it.
Your heart is aqua.
Yeah, but to Billy's point, that Marino column, I mean, that saves Greg. Armed with hindsight, that was the best column you've ever written. I mean,
It certainly was probably the most talked about.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. But it protects you. It
He
protects
did
you.
an interview in front of the Miami Herald building, and his face was silhouetted and his voice was distorted
That
like
was
an
hilarious.
FBI
What a
informant.
time.
They could do that at that time?
Yeah, that was great. That was really funny.
That's so good.
I remember that. That was brilliant.
Greg Cody did indeed try to trade Marino, and it is a very good argument against his general homerism. He hasn't written a column like that since. He is a columnist, actually, that I would say comes closer to objective than wildly opinionated, because he doesn't write a lot of things that are on the extremes of takery.
Isn't the point of a columnist, though, to give us your opinion, give us your take? Like, Greg's not out here acting like he's Bob Woodward, who, by the way, journalistically has had some questionable choices in the past 10 years. So
Right.
Greg's giving you, the reader, his opinion as a South Florida guy, and I think that's the job, right?
And I don't hold back. I mean, the column I wrote in this morning's paper online right now on the Marlins manager hire was pretty harsh if you're a Marlins fan and don't like the truth. What I wrote was he's going from the mountaintop of the Dodgers to the hinterlands of Miami, and is this guy insane for taking this job? And so I'm going to write what I feel like writing. You know, if the Hurricanes.
But that's a different bias.
Yeah, you're a
'Cause
Red Sox fan.
Stugotz was just whispering in my ear. He doesn't even like the Marlins. Like, that's a different bias. You're more likely to rip the Marlins than you are the Dolphins.
See, there again, you keep. I'm not a fan.
Oh, God.
You understand that, right?
You are a fan. You've been a fan since a kid of the Dolphins.
When I go to I'm covering every Dolphin game, either remotely or in the stadium, so this doesn't apply to the Dolphins. When I go to a Marlin game, quote unquote, as a fan, if they hit a grand slam home run, I'm not cheering. I'm there even neutrally as a spectator, because I don't want somebody who might recognize me to say, "Look at this Homer cheering for the Marlins." No, I don't give a shit whether our teams win or lose. Now, I will say this. I write for my readers. My readers are fans of these teams.
Yep.
And so if our teams are winning, look,
what a lazy that a boy. And then he reaches into his pockets to grab some cigarettes.
I mean, he does it for the fans. I mean, who could complain about that? He cares about his readers.
Look,
I mean,
I would have loved to have written that Lionel Messi, in his first full season with the team, led Miami to the MLS Cup. I would have loved to have written that. It doesn't make me a fan or a homer of that team. It makes me wanting to write what I think a lot of my readers would love to read.
didn't you have season tickets for that team?
Christopher and I had season tickets for. No, we did, and I'm fine with that.
So am I, by the way.
What's the scandal in that?
Nothing.
Why
There is no
is
scandal.
Le Batard laughing like a
You're
hyena?
a season ticket holder.
Bad arm week, man.
I'm Team Greg.
We are
I'm
all
Team
Team
Greg.
Greg back here, by
Yeah.
the way.
Oh, he knows we are.
I'm in your
I
corner,
mean,
Greg.
yeah.
Aligned with you here.
Bad arm week, and you're doing this to him. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I mean, Terrible.
It's don't get me started.
Wait, I think we
No,
already
you crossed the line. Okay,
Oh,
you crossed
Mike,
the line.
it's happening.
I'm good, right?
Oh, my God.
You're on the line. I mean, to make something of the fact that Christopher and I a couple of years ago bought season tickets. And how many games did I actually go to? 2?
It was an investment, honestly.
I mean,
Greg, I simply was laughing at the comedic perfection. The
bad investment.
The staccato effort of you being asked directly a question after everything we've talked about, and then you admitting to, yes, I'm a season ticket holder. I was laughing because it and you are funny.
Okay.
Just the way that the music of that played out, it made me laugh that way because it's naturally funny for her. Because I also saw it happen because it swung with your great ally, Billy, who whispered it into Stugotz's ear, and then it shot across as a question.
I told him, I said, don't mention Tom Herman got fired at FAU. Rough week for the Owls. That's Greg's alma mater.
Tony is out on, let's see. Oh, look at this. Tony's at Versailles. Look at this.
I
He's
love
in
that place.
Anytime that anybody comes to Miami and says, where can I get authentic Cuban food? This is where I send them. Affordable, reasonable food. There's nothing left in America that is as reasonable a price as that authentic food that Tony is standing in front of right now.
Yet Trump doesn't pay the bill.
That's correct. Walked out on a $9 empanizado. Tony, what do you have for us today? We've got a bunch of OLI on your top 5.
We absolutely do, Dano. Good morning, live from the most economical place on the planet, Bedside Bakery. This is a double. We're in front of the bakery right now. The restaurant's actually on the other side. So I wanted to bring you here because the same as you, when somebody asked me from out of town, where do I go for authentic Cuban? Right here on La Ocho y La 35. Right on Olga and Tony Avenue. Dan, right here in front of Versailles. First off, I want to say DoorDash presents Tony's Top 5. Get all your game day faves delivered. Head to DraftKings.com/DoorDash to play for free. Restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. Dan, we're going to start off in the OLI. A fun week of football. We're going to start off here. Last night, Brandon Aubrey, Mr. Automatic, except for the 40-yarder. But that was a network-wide jinx. So we're going to throw that one off the record. Did you see how he kicked the 64-yarder? It looked like he just kicked it with real no power behind it.
Jessica's rolling her eyes at you. I don't know what it is that happened.
No. What's going on here is everyone's been saying, like, oh, what happened to kickers in the NFL? Well, last time I checked, Chris Boswell had 6 field goals this weekend. So
kickers were just fine this weekend,
exactly.
according to Jessica.
This is not a Tony thing.
Kicker.
This is an everyone else thing.
That's
Brandon
an indictment on
Aubrey,
the
too.
Steelers' offense kind of thing.
They won the game.
O-line number 2. Yes, they did. O-line number 2. Brock Bowers is the best weapon at tight end, not named Taysom Hill. Dan, Taysom Hill's lined up at quarterback, at fullback, at running back, at tight end, at wide receiver, at quarterback. Mr. Do-It-All.
Seems fun to be him on a Sunday like that, except for the interception.
Once a year.
Yeah.
But the interception was a bomb. He threw it 65 yards, you know?
Even that was
fun. It is what it is.
Yeah.
All right, starting off, it was fun. When you're supposed to look out and drop instead of running for a 75-yard touchdown, but you say, no, it's my turn, and you run for a 75-yard touchdown, I like that. All right, starting off at number 5. Is Bo Nix turning the corner?
Okay, we're doing this officially as a show today.
Wow.
Put it on the poll, Juju.
No.
Bo Nix, it guy?
He's turning the corner, Dan. Last week I told you, look out for Bo Nix. Comes out, has a 4-touchdown game against Atlanta. Starting to turn the corner on being a quarterback that was, to a quarterback that's being, intriguing. Bo Nix.
Oh, he's made the jump from...
Exactly. Thank you, Stugotz.
How is the jump? The jump
he's
is...
turning the corner. It's like a corner turn. Like he's about here, but then it's like here.
Right.
So like that's where that game was. Instead of like here, it's here. So it's a quick turn of the corner.
But what are the street addresses?
Yeah, exactly. Like he went from being like to like to the corner turn.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're taking a little bit of a longer look at him now.
Okay.
How's there
Longer
3
look.
stops on one corner?
He's starting to make you think, Dan.
it's one of those 3-way stops.
Yeah.
You're making
What's with
him
the
think,
follow-ups?
and you got to stop.
Is it a roundabout? One of those weird roundabouts?
Use this turn signal.
No, because you don't stop at those. You just keep going at those.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
You don't just
Yeah,
keep
I don't think
going.
that's how those
a
work.
yield.
You do.
I think
Yield.
I think in France you do. I think you just keep going in
Tony's not
France.
in France.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're at Versailles. Very close, by the way.
Nah, very, very
Number
close.
4.
very, very close.
Well, there's one in France.
That's
Very,
what he
very,
meant.
very, 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 very close. Number 4, nobody does a TCB game like Dan Campbell and the Lions. Nobody.
That's a new
What's a
thing.
TCB game, Dan?
I don't know. Take care of your business.
Taking care of business.
I put a
Attaboy,
Y in there.
Daniel.
I
Made it a yogurt
made
store.
TCYB.
That's a fine. I mean,
Yeah. It's a TCB game. Take care of business. That's what we do for the Lions and Dan Campbell. Nobody does it better. Number 3, I'm starting to feel bad for Joe Burrow at this point.
Really?
Yeah. I have a couple of stats here. I don't know. I wasn't listening yesterday. I don't know if you guys mentioned these. 2 little back-to-back Joe Burrow stats for you, not by Mr. Civ, by the way. These are authenticated and real. Not like Mr. Civ, who confused me and Aaron Rodgers. All right. Joe Burrow has lost 3 games this season in which he has had 3 touchdown passes, 300 yards or more, and 0 interceptions. The most such losses in a season in the Super Bowl era.
crazy.
If he could undo it,
Nobody has been better and lost.
Do you think he'd not bleach his hair?
He's playing well. It's not his fault. Another little stat here for you quickly. Joe Burrow in the Bengals, 7 losses this year. He's completed 67% of his passes for 2,200 yards, 18 touchdowns, 2 picks. 7 losses, by the way, for the Bengals. So just tuck that one in for later.
All right.
Number 2, Mike Tomlin can single-handedly will a team to victory like nobody in NFL history.
Yeah. I think he can. I think he actually has that ability. I do.
Just because he wants it?
Yes. Yeah.
He just wants it more, Dan. He doesn't blink. He says to Boswell, hey, you're going to kick a 6 and win the game. And he kicks 6 and wins the game. Somehow, some way, Lamar Jackson, who's been the best quarterback all season, looks like Snoop Huntley out there. I don't get it.
Ouch. I don't think he says
I'm just
anything
saying.
to his kicker.
I'm just
I think he just wills it in. I mean, that's what he does. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I feel like Tomlin just kind of gives one of these and he looks at him and goes,
Head nod.
and then that's it. And then Boswell knows what the deal is, yeah.
All right, so this is what we're doing
Number
now.
1.
Okay, this is what we're going to do with Tomlin now?
It's his top 5.
Okay.
Thank you. Number 1, Dan, I'm sorry to say this for everybody in the Bay Area, but the 49ers window is officially closed.
Oh, wow. Wow. A window has been shut.
The window is
Whoa.
closed. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news.
Whoa.
I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I will be.
Wow.
Yet I am. Exactly right, Greg Cody, who is
Thank
not
you.
a homer, by the way.
Thank you.
Objective journalist.
Appreciate that.
The more important point is you have injuries. You have a quarterback that you're going to have to pay coming up soon. There's a lot of things that are not going well for the 49ers. You're last in the division right now. You let Geno Smith walk in for a 13-yard touchdown to win the game. It's over. The window's closed. There's too many good teams in the NFC for you to recover from being 5-5. It's over. And I'm fully expecting them to go 7 straight games and win them all and then win the Super Bowl after I say this, by the way.
It is what we're all rooting for. Thank you, Tony. We interrupted Greg Cody in what was the most indignant sports media rant objecting to being a homer since Bo Bach was on the air in Atlanta and was spouting while shaking a bottle of pills at us because he was objecting to how somebody had called him a homer. And he's not even a journalist like you. He's just a sports radio guy, although he does have a newsletter.
I mean, you don't know anything about what you're talking about, and you have the nerve to call up here and say to me that we're trying to upsell the Falcons to you? Sir, you're not a Falcon fan. You haven't been. And if you have been, you don't know what you're looking at.
Stop being a homer, bro. Get out of my
I'm the last one who's a homer. Don't you ever call me a homer. Who the hell do you think has been saying the truth since 1973 on Atlanta radio? Who?
during the break an indignant Greg Cody when I was saying, I'm going to call Erleen. I'm going to call her. He's like, do it. Go ahead. I look forward to it. And I'm like, last time you did this on your podcast, next thing you know, you're losing something about your shit hygiene in the bathroom. You thought it was going to go one way with Erleen, and it ended up going another way. But he was very indignant and confident during the break. And then his wife's lovely face comes up on the television in here, and he blurted like this. I'm not even kidding you. Oh, no. Because
that's what he says whenever he sees me. That's what he says.
Well, because you're a trained assassin whose job it is to bury him, and he knows it.
That's correct.
And all I want is factual answers to my questions. So the first question I would ask you, Erleen, is yes or no, your husband is a fan of the Dolphins?
Yes.
He's so mad at me right now. Yes.
I don't think we have any more questions.
I have plenty of questions. She knows I grew up a Dolphins fan. What is she supposed to say to that question?
Tell us, let's lighten the mood a little bit. Tell us about your husband's bad arm week.
Oh, yeah, it's Charlie's fault. But my favorite part is when I explained to him that blood thinners do that to everyone. He said, well, maybe I'll just stop taking that pill. And I'm like, that's not really the solution, I don't think.
Your husband yesterday identified as a hypochondriac. And me and your son were like, no, you hate asking and going to see doctors. Like, we have to push your screaming.
Well, he rejects whatever they say. He wants to have his own best idea. I could go on this, but it's better not.
I'd like you to go on the other one, though. On Sundays, is your husband rooting for the Dolphins to win?
He's always rooting for his pick above all else.
Thank you.
But he does have a warm and fuzzy part about the Dolphins more than he has any other team.
Of course I do. That does not indict me.
What's wrong
I grew
with that?
up
There's
down
nothing wrong
here.
with that.
I had a Dolphin pennant back when pennants were cloth and people had pennants on their wall. I had a Dolphins pennant when I was 8 years old.
Yep.
His readers want that.
Do you think that your husband is objective when it comes to the Miami Dolphins?
Yes, I do.
All right. There you go.
He is not a homer. You do not
fan.
You do not believe him to be a homer.
She was playing ball there.
Oh, no, he's a homer. But
Thank you, Erleen.
No, I want to ask her something.
Okay, all right.
I want to ask her something.
This is not going to go well. Okay.
I don't.
It's your witness.
I don't travel
I
on
feel like I gave you a lot of points there.
No,
think
you
I was
didn't.
very
You took
helpful.
points away.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a
Oh,
question.
no.
Okay, I don't travel much anymore. When the Dolphins are on the road and I'm watching the game at home and writing a column off it, do you hear me cheering for the Dolphins?
No, you're not cheering. You got your little notebook and you're writing crap down.
Thank you.
But on the inside, perhaps you are.
No,
quietly, while you write crap down, while you wear the cloak of writing crap down, quietly, you're happy when Tua throws a touchdown
I
pass.
do have a cloak of writing things down.
Do you have anything else to
I have a
ask your
cloak.
wife? So she's got a very busy job. She's got things to do.
No, she's betrayed me enough. Let her go.
Erleen, thank you. Always good catching up with you. Always nice seeing you. I've told your father this a few times recently, Chris, and for some reason, after all of these years, it doesn't change. I'm like, Greg, when you're angry, always funny.
Yeah.
Oh, when you're legitimately angry at us because everyone knows that we love you and you love us, always funny. But he wants to storm out of the room right now because his wife betrayed him, and he's going to have a stern talking to when she gets home. There's either going to be a talking to or a sternly worded letter because he might write it down. He's mad right now.
A sternly written letter? That's funny.
To his
I'm
wife.
actually penning a letter to my wife. How dare you? No, I'm much less mad at her than I am at you for simply, putting words in my mouth and saying I cheer for the Dolphins to win when I don't.
You are questioning something that is very important to Greg Cody. It's his journalistic credibility.
Right, which Mike understands, and others perhaps do, but Le Batard doesn't. And
it's
that
everything.
surprises and disappoints.
Well, Greg, the only thing I would say is in 2024, it's okay. You could be a columnist for the Herald and still root for the Dolphins. No one cares.
Right.
No one cares.
Yeah, but I do.
Okay. That's all that matters.
Well, he cares, though, and he's got it wrong. His appraisal's wrong, according to his wife.
She does not. First of all, she didn't say that I cheer for the Dolphins, which I don't.
Well, but you're making some sort of weird distinction that I didn't say. I said that you want them to win, not that you're making a lot of noise celebrating them and roaring with like applause and standing ovations, that you just want them to win.
Right, and you're flatly wrong.
You're okay, but your wife says I'm not.
No, she's wrong too.
What's happening here? It's not enough that you're ruining this man's career. Now you're trying to end his marriage.
Yeah, don't do that.
Let me tell you something I do that could also be misconstrued by you, and certainly would be. Okay, when I'm leaving, I'm leaving Dolphin Stadium after last Sunday's game, telling her I'm walking to my car, I'll be home in a half hour, whatever. The first thing, after the Dolphins win, I usually say to her some bullshit like, how about those Dolphins, huh? Why? Because I know she's a Dolphin fan.
Right.
Because I know her day was made brighter by them winning. I don't give a shit. Okay? I don't. Particularly in the midst of this season.
Right.
Okay, now, if I am rooting for my own interest, if I have written, hey, don't count them out yet, they're going to win these next 3 games and get right back in the playoff race, and they win the second of those 3 games, makes me look decent. So, yeah, in that respect, I'm glad they won because I'm rooting for what I wrote.
You're rooting for yourself to be right.
Yes,
right.
Exactly. And so in that respect, I'm rooting for the best column to write, which is I told you don't count out the Dolphins.
This coming week, though, I mean, Drake May really finding his own. Imagine him getting a win within the division. That'd be a good story to write.
Yeah, they won't, though. They're going to beat New England.
Drake May, when you say he's finding his own, Billy, what does that mean? Finding his own?
He's coming around.
Something,
time will tell.
Something you're throwing out there.
He's been pretty good.
Finding his own players downfield to throw to instead of the other team.
He's making that turn that Tony was talking about.
Okay, yeah, he's finding his own. You, Greg Cody, are somebody who spent all of last year telling us that the Dolphins were going to win the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And am I supposed to feel bad when they had the best offense in the NFL? Good enough to score 70 points in one game. Good enough for Tyreek Hill to make a run at 2,000 yards. Good enough for Tua to have to make the Pro Bowl. Good enough to have Raheem Mostert rush for 21 touchdowns. Yeah, I thought they were pretty damn good.
Doesn't sound like a homer at all.
It sounds like somebody who follows the Dolphins very, very closely.
Yeah.
Wrote the book on the Dolphins, some
did.
say.
Yeah.
One of
50.
them. One of them. All right, so I
Out of stock, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You've written more books than fit on a Kindle.
How about that?
Billy, would you do me the favor, please, of calling up Greg Cody's column here today on new Marlins manager Clayton McCulla? Because I'd like to just have you read portions of his column that you probably haven't already read, because he's still out here grinding, writing about your team, the Marlins.
My
he's
team.
Yes,
I
that's
root
your
for the
team.
best story.
I will say this about Greg Cody, that he was here for 2 hours after the show yesterday prepping for that interview. So that is a good job by Greg. He cares about his listeners and his readers.
I do.
Yes. He was here working because it's close to the stadium, and he didn't want to drive back to Fort Lauderdale and come back up.
I can't read it. There's a paywall. And I support Greg, just not
That's
financially.
not supporting Greg, and that is look at how disappointed.
No,
he
let me
is.
see if I can access it and forward it to
Yeah,
Bill.
but
That's
promo code?
embarrassing. Surely,
Winging the mic away from you.
surely we have a subscription to the Miami Herald here. Surely.
Oh, wait,
we
I
do.
just pushed the X, and I think I bypassed
Yes,
it. Hold on a second.
That easy?
I don't know
Wow.
who their webmaster is, but that's
No
not
wonder
how
the
that should
business is
work.
tanking.
I promise you that somewhere at Meadowlark there is a Miami Herald subscription.
That'd be great. Thank you for your support.
You got to update this headshot.
Chris Cody and I were told by you yesterday that you intended, among other things, to go at Marlins fans, and I did not read that in today's
No,
column.
I didn't. That's there's too much to get into one column. Perhaps that's for my opening day column. I'm not sure. We'll see how that goes.
Okay, you're going to embargo it. Greg Cody was arguing that the few fans the Marlins do have need to start doing things actively to show their displeasure with the team, to pressure the team to do more than it is presently doing.
So don't go to the games.
Well, the displeasure of fans shows in the empty seats.
Right.
It shows that 2/3 of the seats, on average, are unoccupied. That's fans protesting. But if I were a Marlins fan, I would go to a game. I would make myself heard. I would wear a paper bag on my head. I would carry a sign that said, "Hey, Bruce Sherman, how about spending money to compete with the teams in the division that are among the biggest spenders in the league?"
Very long sign. It's a very long sign.
Hard to read. It's a lot of words. Yeah,
it'd be pretty wordy. You're right. It'd have to be small letters.
A
Nobody could see
tapestry
it.
from left field to right field. You
The whole paragraph. It's a ridiculous sign.
Maybe we go shirtless and we write each letter on someone's stomach and we get like
there you go. There'd be
more
plenty of
people,
empty seats.
hundreds of people.
Yeah, there'd be plenty of seats for that. We could do it.
Attendance record there.
Billy, have you found the juiciest parts?
I'm by paragraph 2. I'm a slow reader.
Okay, the juiciest parts. What was the proudest part of your column today for you when you typed it up? The beginning, the middle, or the end?
I would stand by whatever the first 5 paragraphs.
Okay.
It's not going to take a quiz.
All right, so you stand by your writing in the Miami Herald today.
Well, I'm looking at it now. I don't memorize everything.
He questioned his sanity in the second paragraph, and then said, "I'm not questioning it, though."
Mm-hmm. That's well done, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you do this as an audiobook, as a little bit of like
read it for us?
A little bit of
I
Kindle,
can read it. I don't care.
A little Kindle ish.
You want me to?
Yes, please.
Welcome to Miami, Clayton, McCulla. We're about 2,340 miles southeast of L.A., down here in the baseball hinterlands. You've left the safety of your job as first base coach of the World Series champion Dodgers, left the very mountaintop of your sport to climb down to manage the Marlins. Some might question your sanity for this move. Not me. I say you deserve credit for bravery, perhaps even a medal. I wish you all of the luck you will need. You come from an L.A. market where Dodgers led MLB in attendance last year, averaging 48,000 fans per game. You come to a Miami market whose Marlins struggled to even sell out opening day and who finished 29th of 30 with an average gate of 13,000. Bright side, outdrew the A's, who have been alienating Oakland for years, itching to leave. You are leaving a rich Dodgers ownership that had the 5th-ranked $240 million payroll last year for a penurious Marlins ownership whose $97 million payroll ranked 27th. And Mr. McCulla.
May I slow you down just because you sound like you're going very fast. You're getting a little winded.
It's a very good column, by the way.
Yes. So they're going from the best team in the sport to one of the worst.
Right.
Now, when do we get to the ripping?
And Mr. McCulla, you are leaving a city that loves its Dodgers for a city where the Marlins are the 6th biggest team in town, where baseball has become an afterthought dwarfed by the Dolphins, resurgent Hurricanes football, the Heat, the Stanley Cup champion Panthers, and Lionel Messi in Inter Miami. Love a challenge, Clayton? You got one. And I go from there.
I didn't realize that was so. He had me counting on my fingers right now. They are the 6th most relevant team in town. That caught me off guard just hearing it like that, and he's not wrong in any way.
That is such a good job by you, Greg, because you say that some might question your sanity, but I'm not one of them. I call you brave.
I don't know. I've been to men's and women's hoops games in the last couple of years, and I've been to Cyclones games. Oh, wow. I would probably put the vibes, energy, and attendance of those 3 teams over the Marlins, too.
Wow.
I think the argument, women's basketball doesn't draw very well.
There were a lot of people at the Notre Dame Miami game that I went to.
Okay.
And it was like the day after Christmas.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
We got FIU tonight.
Okay. All right.
The conference games get good attendance, right, Mike?
The conference games get all right. They're still growing. Hey, number 5 recruiting class, top 5 recruiting class in the nation. Coach Trish. I think Haley Cavender, this is a shocking take, is the greatest passer in the history of that program, men's or women's.
Whoa.
That's a little crazy.
Rick Barry?
Rick Barry. You're forgetting the Rick Barry days. Yeah. How dare you?
I wasn't there in attendance to watch Rick Barry command the court, but I don't think he had the same court vision.
How about Barry Larkin's kid? I mean,
Shane Larkin.
Shane Larkin. Yes.
No, I did this in my Canes group chat just to see if I could get a rise out of folks and see what kind of names they would come back at me with, which did make me laugh. I would say Angel Rodriguez. Okay, you're in the class.
Okay,
you have a case against it, but I think Haley's court vision's unbelievable. She's really developed developed as a player. She had a 30-point game against Florida on the road. The Cavender twins are actually really damn good. Haley was good the last go around, but they've improved from that year off playing the sport. And Miami basketball's got a shot to build on the momentum of that Elite Eight. They unjustly missed the tournament last year. It really killed Katie Meyer's passion for the sport, but new coach in and recruiting at a high level, Miami's very well positioned there. Come on out tonight, Watsco, FIU.
Now that's a homer.
Unabashed, which I like.
Diana Russini is going to join us now to talk a little bit of football, and we have a surprise for her toward the end of this interview. But as she gets situated here, I just wanted to bring it back to what it is that Greg Cody was saying about the Dodgers and the juxtaposition against the Marlins. The Dodgers are meeting Juan Soto today, and the Dodgers... This is unbelievable what I'm about to say. The Dodgers made so much money off of Ohtani that their financial advantages are going to be even greater than they were before when they merely had the best regional television deal. And they've got all of the good players. I mean, it's just asinine to have Ohtani and Freeman and Betts in the middle of the same lineup. Got to the World Series even though everyone else around them was hurt. Got to the World Series with Freeman limping because a third of their lineup is those three guys, and they're meeting with Soto, and Soto wants $600 million. And the Dodgers are the new Yankees. Like, it's just crazy to think that they gave that amount of money to Ohtani, and his deal was so team-friendly, Stugotz, because it's all on the back end, that they can get everybody. They can get everybody in the sport. They can steal the Yankees' best free agent, and that meeting is today. I've heard that Toronto wants in the game. That feels all manufactured by Scott Boras.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Toronto.
Yeah.
But there are going to be multiple teams. There are going to be multiple teams, and you only need one. But if you've got two, and you got Scott Boras, and two of them are the Yankees and Dodgers,
and one of them's the Mets, a third team, I mean, he's fine without Toronto.
The idea that the Dodgers could land Soto should scare everybody who cares about the competitive balance of baseball, because then the only thing that you have in your favor is the idea that baseball is random. But everyone else will have to bow before the biggest payroll in the sport, where not even the Yankees can compete with the Dodgers in payroll. Diana Russini is with us now, and there are a number of football things that I want to talk to her about. Thank you for joining us, Diana. Scoop City is the name of her podcast. But the Detroit Lions, are they simply better than everybody else?
Yeah, they are. They are from top to bottom. And it's not like this happened overnight. They've been building towards this. This was the vision they had when they hired Brad Holmes and they brought in Dan Campbell, and ownership said, look, we're not good. We're not good at all. We don't even know what we are. Fix us, make us better. And now we're seeing this team believe and buy into what the program's all about. And, you know, we've heard Jared Goff talk about it in a lot of his post-game press conferences about the trust they have with Campbell. And I really think that's been a big part of why this team has been able to have so much success. They've captured sort of this unified idea of what they are. And it's very, very clear. And even just talking to teams around the league preparing to face the Detroit Lions, this is a team that starts where all good football teams start, which is in the trenches. And they've got one of the most impressive, if not the best offensive line in football. And that's why we're seeing so much success, on top of the fact that they got some great skill players and a really stout defense.
You don't expect Belichick to be on the sideline this year, correct?
I do. I expect Bill Belichick to get a job in 2025. He's certainly getting ready for it.
No. Do you expect to see him on a sideline this year? No. I think Bill is preparing for what the next cycle is going to bring him and the opportunities that I think he's going to have. He's obviously entrenched in this in the media right now and doing that, but I don't see a scenario where, you know, let's just, for this example, just an example, let's just say Jerry Jones wakes up today and says, all right, I'm done with this Mike McCarthy situation. Let's get ahead of it and get Bill in here now before, let's say, the Jags or maybe the Saints or, you know, a team that would want someone like a Bill Belichick.
I don't imagine that. This coaching cycle is moving right now. I can tell you that from talking to people behind the scenes. This is different than it's been in years past. Usually I've talked to you guys, around Thanksgiving, right after Thanksgiving, early December, there's chit chat about it. There's talk. But there are definitely conversations being had around the league about what's next. And the top candidates appear to be Mike Vrabel, Bill Belichick, Aaron Glenn in Detroit, Ben Johnson in Detroit. And those seem to be the names for right now. That's all going to change as we get through the next few weeks. But those seem to be the guys that teams have their eye on.
How real do you think the Deion Sanders stuff to Dallas is?
It's not real.
Really?
Just from the conversations I've had. I think Deion actually wants to stay in college. We'll start there. I know he's been public about that as well. But talking to some people close to him, they've shared with me that he likes where he's at. He likes the space he's in. That could change. Of course it could change. But in terms of Dallas, I don't think that that's a realistic option for them. I think that they're going to be looking more towards a coach with experience in the league and not do a first-time head coach scenario. I don't think they're against that idea of a former player turned head coach. I just don't believe that that's the direction that they're going to go in for now.
Can you give me your assessment of this assessment earlier of Greg Cody's about the Houston Texans?
I think they're a good team that is very, 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 very far from being a great team.
That's unfair.
That's ridiculous. I did not say that.
I was asking for her assessment, not your assessments. Let's play it again, please, so that she can hear it clearly without Greg Cody's objection.
I think they're a good team that is very, 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 very far from being a great team. I didn't say that.
Will you
play it again?
Play it again, please, so that she can hear it without him contaminating the jury.
I think they're a good team that is very, 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 very far from being a great team.
Look, I would subtract 10 varies.
Oh, there you go.
10.
Team. I'm in agreement that they have some issues, that they need to be better in some areas. They're not always the smartest football team out there. And they certainly are not playing up to, I think, the standard of what we thought they would be at this point this year. But they're figuring it out. And I still think they're going to be a team we're talking about in January.
The actual argument we were having was me suggesting that in a very crowded AFC.
Very, very crowded.
In a very crowded AFC, Houston was not a top 4 team. And I'm wondering, if you put Detroit in the Super Bowl, who in the AFC is going to play them for the championship? Because I think it's wide open conference.
Yeah, I don't think it's as wide open as maybe you think it is. I think it's the teams that we saw play, which were the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs we saw this weekend. Obviously, the Pittsburgh Steelers are making a case here. Look, I still think in the end, it's going to be Kansas City that we see back in the Super Bowl.
What are you making faces about, Chris Cody?
No, I thought Diana was having technical issues there for a second. I didn't know.
So you were confused by her cadence and
I was
her
worried,
delivery?
I
You
was
were
worried
worried
that
that she was falling apart because
She was startled by the amount of berries your dad
Was
used.
she
I mean,
distracted?
yeah.
Were you unimpressed by the way that she delivered that? Did you think she wasn't paying attention? You seem like you were judging her content.
When I'm in this seat, there's a lot of things moving. I was just assessing different things. We might have someone joining the Zoom. Thank you for calling all the attention to me.
Okay, good. Well,
Chris, thanks for having my back, actually, because he's right. I was fumbling there, like I usually do on this show, because there's something always distracting me, whether it's a noise, a person, a sound effect. Visually, things are going dark on me from what I can see on my screen. So I'm just trying to fight through it. You guys are really testing me every week. You're making me better at this whole live thing.
Yeah, we're crazy. Aaron Rodgers, will he be back next season? And if so, will it be with the Jets?
I don't know. I don't think the Jets know if they want him back, and I don't know if Aaron Rodgers knows if he wants to. I just think his options aren't going to be what they were. The New York Jets signed up for an MVP caliber quarterback.
Yep.
They did not get an MVP caliber quarterback. That is not what we've gotten on, we'll just say in this last year. Last year is a wash. So I still think the next few games here are going to be really important for the Jets organization in terms of what they want to do next at quarterback. But I can tell you that I don't think it's a lock that these guys come back together next year. Does that make you like that answer, Stu? Do you want Aaron Rodgers back?
I'm ready to move on.
You are?
Yeah, I am. Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a disappointment. The guy they wanted was the guy they thought they were getting, that, high-level great quarterback, was supposed to be last season, and he tore his Achilles 4 plays in. And now he's just a 40-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles tear, and I've seen enough. I don't want him anymore.
Okay, but do you think this is a scenario where, let's say he goes to the Vikings next year?
They'll win the Super Bowl.
Browns.
Yeah, Super Bowl.
And then you get exactly. You get the soupy. The Hammer. Many more of those to come. Why was I hammered? The Hammer. Friday morning, I guess. Every day of the week, actually, lately.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what the Chargers are? Because I feel like everyone here wants to question how good they are, and they've been the best defense in the sport. And if I give that quarterback the best defense in the sport, I feel like I've got a pretty good football team.
Yeah, you give that head coach all of that as well. They're underrated. They are underrated. My co-host on Scoop City Chase, if he could do the whole show talking about the Chargers, I think he would. Just because the impact that Jim has had already on everyone and bringing out the best in Justin Herbert. He's kind of always just been in his shell. He's a little shy. He hasn't really leaned into all of what comes with being a franchise quarterback. And I think Jim has found a way to take all the shine and spotlight off the quarterback and put it on himself to allow that quarterback to get comfortable. And he's doing it with weapons that, with all due respect, these aren't top-notch, big-name receivers. He lost those guys last year. They're playing for different teams in Pittsburgh and in Chicago now. So the fact that they've been able in just a few months with Jim Harbaugh now taking control of the Chargers organization, the Chargers that used to charger, I think they're chargering less. I think they're maybe, changing the narrative of that organization. And it really, it starts from the top and bringing him in.
How many times this season alone has your husband fired Nick Sirianni?
17.
What?
We're still in. Here's how I see it. If we're not leading the conversation when we're discussing the Eagles with Nick, that means things are going well, right? Like that's kind of how it is. And right now we're not talking about him a lot in our house, which is good. And I think Sirianni's been doing a really good job too, even publicly. He's really toned it down. He's hiding his emotions. He looks in control. I still think he's on a short leash in terms of the Eagles wanting to see if he can take them to the Super Bowl. I think they are watching this.
But he did it already.
He's done it already. I know. And you look at his winning percentages, and he has like the highest in the last 20 years for an Eagles team. You cannot argue the success Nick Sirianni has had, but it's just a situation where you think, all right, he's doing this with a championship caliber roster. Ownership knows that. The general manager knows that. Is this going to come down to a situation later on in December, January, where they're going to lose a game because of Nick? I don't know. And I don't think that's off the table. I think we've all thought of it, is this guy going to cost the Eagles? So for now, the vibes are high, though.
Derrick Henry, Saquon, Joe Mixon last night. Are we seeing a running back renaissance that's going to continue in the NFL?
Look, you look at Tony Pollard too. That's what I saw last night in terms. Tony Pollard wasn't out there, obviously. He used to play with the Cowboys, and now he's with the Titans, and he's one of the Titans' best players. I know we talk a lot about that Derrick Henry move that the Dallas Cowboys didn't make. Letting Tony Pollard go to me was, I think, the bigger issue that they have, because they could certainly use him now in the run game. I think running backs went out of style for a minute there because of the way they were getting paid. But now with the emergence of Saquon again playing the best football he's ever played since he's been a pro, Derrick Henry looking like he's 23, I think they've helped their market. I think this is going to be an offseason when we're talking free agency here on this show, we're not going to be doing what we did a few years ago, which was, oh man, nobody wants to pay this guy. I think now teams know the run
I
game.
want to see more of that impersonation. Who is that? What kind of what is happening with that person?
Which general manager in football stands there like this? Like, I'm not paying him. I'm not doing that. Nobody's doing it.
I don't understand.
I'd like it if more
I
did.
don't understand why you did it that way. I was confused.
I don't know these voices because here, for me to live in the space I live in with dealing with people in this league, I have to imagine them as these like cartoon characters. They're not human beings. Because if they're human beings, then I handle my business differently. So they're these characters. So that's what I just imagine Trent Baalke just doing this and making calls. It's like my way of not liking them, I guess. Keep them far away from me.
What did you read here interesting about Bills Chiefs?
What did I learn about Bills Chiefs?
Just anyone saying anything interesting. Yeah. There's a lot of coverage of Bills Chiefs, a lot of people making assessments of Josh Allen was better on this fourth down play, and then therefore I think this, and this. What were the things that were interesting to you about Bills Chiefs? Because Stugotz was doing something that a lot of people were doing after that game. The Chiefs are like, okay, you can have that one. We'll let you have one during the regular season.
The Chiefs are laughing at him.
We'll see you guys in the playoffs as if the Chiefs are that good this year, which they're not. I don't think they're as good. I don't think they're as good as the Bills this year.
The Chiefs are winning on defense again and special teams, right? Their offense is not as good as they should be at this point. And it's funny, you look at the Bills and Josh Allen is doing what Patrick Mahomes was doing a few years ago when he didn't have any weapons, right? It's like they flip-flopped. And now Patrick's got choices and options and players to throw to. And Josh is making magic out of nothing and carrying this team on his own shoulders as we saw. So, yeah, I don't think the Chiefs are sitting there going, yeah, that's a gimme. Just take it. We'll see you in the playoffs. I think the Bills are better than anyone expected, and they're riding this momentum.
What do you make of what it is the Giants did with Daniel Jones?
I don't think it was as easy as a decision as it probably appears. It had to happen. No one was shocked that they benched Daniel Jones. I know I talked to you guys last week, and aggregators picked it all up and took my words of, hey, I know there's conversations being had right now about what they want to do. There is an option of maybe sticking with Daniel a few more weeks because I knew of the quarterback situations as the backups, perhaps maybe not being ready. But obviously they chose the smart business decision for the New York Giants, right? Which is to bench Daniel Jones, knowing that they've got this injury guarantee that they would have to deal with. And so, you know, the book is closed on Daniel Jones in New York, and we'll see if he'll be able to find another team and pull off a Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold situation where maybe a different environment, a new place will be better for him.
I think
and now it's Tommy DeVito.
I think you just said their backup.
Tommy DeVito, baby.
There it is. Sean Stellato is with us. The agent for Tommy DeVito is with us. What did you think of her assessments that the backups weren't looking up to snuff? What is this woman talking about?
Hey, she knows what she's talking about. I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and she's been doing it a long time. But I guess we'll see. We're excited for the opportunity. And look, it's a parity-driven league. And, you know, there's guys that are second and third stringers that sometimes they get an opportunity. The rest is history. But we're excited for that opportunity. And, you know, the goal is to win football games and be employed there for a long time.
I believe that you were just gentle with her because the Italians stick together. I believe is what's happening there.
Italians cutting it up.
We do. I am a girl dad, and you're right. The Italians do stick together.
We stick together. I have never met Sean, guys. Full disclosure, I've never even reached out to him, which is bad business by me as a journalist covering this league. He's a top dog in this game as an agent. I think I have a problem with Sean because I've dated like 65 Seans. In my life, and he just looking at him right now, I'm feeling all these different emotions. This is Sean is home to me. That's what it is. Sean is home. So Diana, the fact that you guys are bringing us together.
It's the thing where it's like the guy you dated, but he also reminds you of all your cousins, right?
Correct. Which is very awkward and weird, but at the same time, I can't help but root for him. And I just, Sean, I love everything you're doing. I love everything you're about. And I love how much you just lean into all of it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate those kind words. I was named after Sean Connery, so my mother loves Sean Connery, which is kind of cool. But grandparents are from Calabria, Italy, which Di dove sei, where's your family from?
My family's from Sicily, but they will tell you we're just from the Bronx. That's what they say.
Yeah.
So Italy
that's
doesn't
cool.
really
Hey.
matter to them. Little Italy matters to them.
Yes, Little Italy's a beautiful place. I'm actually going to be lighting the tree down Little Italy, Boston next Monday. I'm excited about.
Of course you are. Congratulations, by the way, on getting inducted in the Italian Sports Hall of Fame. I don't know how one gets into that, but if you could maybe call someone, I would love to have some achievement in my life because I've been taking a lot of L's lately. And I want to add something to my Twitter bio that seems interesting because I've got nothing going on right now, Sean.
Well, I got a guy I think you could call. You might need an agent. It sounds good.
Selling
I
himself.
think I want to fire my agent right now and hire Sean.
How does this one work? What is the answer to her question when she asks, how do you get in there? Because she made it sound like it was the Soho House where you got to get somebody to nominate you in order to get in. How does this...
I think there definitely a nomination process, but I mean, this organization's been the Hall since 1977. Some of the greats are enshrined there in Montana and DiMaggio and Joe Montana, who else? Dan Marino, Rocky Marciano. So I know there's some very reputable female, inductees as well. But definitely off air could look into it for you.
Tommy's ready. Tommy's ready, right? You got the endorsements
Tommy,
ready?
Yeah, Tommy is ready. Obviously, look at you they got a close quarterback room, and you always want to see your teammates do well. Sometimes things got to get changed up, but he's prepared his whole life for this moment. He prepared last year going undrafted, getting the Heisman by 28 teams, and went out there and got the opportunities. We feel made the most out of it. He's a different animal than he was 12 months ago. He's really put a big premium on the offseason and continuing to develop, and he loves his coach, he loves his teammates, he loves his fans, and excited for Sunday. Weather's going to be great, and we're very fortunate for this opportunity.
So what kind of animal is he now?
What kind of animal was he? What kind of animal is he now? Last year, he was what kind of animal?
Last year he was kind of, I would say, he was a unique animal in terms of, the cutlet thing. Now I think he's just a better version of the cutlet, but
wow.
he's
He's a stallion, Sean. He's a stallion now. That's what he is.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah.
I literally just handed out about 500 boxes of turkeys to the needy out in Jersey, and so I apologize about the attire. I know you probably want to see a better drip, but
no, it's a good drip. No, it's a good drip. I wasn't expecting you in a suit.
Yeah, no suit today. I wore a suit last night on a meeting. I got to wear a suit in a few hours, so it feels good to be in a little leisure wear.
Good to see you, Sean. Good to see you, Diana. Thank you for being on with us. As Stugotz said, a couple of Italians cutting it up. Thank you.
Sean, get her in the Hall of Fame. Let's go.
Okay. Without a doubt, Diana. I look forward to connecting offline. All right. Continued success. If you're there Sunday, definitely say hello. And Stugotz, I appreciate the love, and you guys be well. If I don't talk to you, have a very, very happy Thanksgiving.
All right.
That's nice, Sean. Man. Thank you so much. It'll be very difficult to spot you at the stadium, but I'll find a way to get to you.
You know what? I was asked that funny. I want to share this real quick. I was at the Bills game, and my client got me a parking pass, and the guy's like, "How did you get back there?" I said, "Well, they dropped me through a helicopter, and I landed in my car." And he's looked at me like I had 5 heads. He's like, "Really?" I was like, "No." Anyway, ciao, guys. Be well. God bless.
Ciao.
That's the sound of Stugotz selling out our autographed coloring books. We are selling out as part of our 20-year celebration around here. We're introducing the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz's 20th anniversary jersey. It's a weird choice to enter the Christmas holidays selling a sleeveless garment, but here we are.
I mean, 20 years, I have been on fire. The last 20 years have put me in the Hall of Fame. Who would look worse in a tank top, me or you?
Okay, it's sleeveless garmentry that we're selling at LeBatardAF.com. It took us 20 years to make it. It looks just as bad on us as you would imagine.
Dan, stay away from my mom. And Mom, you shouldn't have did what you did to Dad.
We are here in beautiful Athens, Georgia, one of the best college towns in America, and we were denied for this game. They said no credential for you, but don't worry, Game Time hooked us up. They got us some tickets for this game, so I'm not media member Lucy today. I'm not professional, graduated with a journalism degree Lucy today. I'm just a Georgia Bulldog today, and I'm having the time of my life.
I bet he gets terrible gas mileage.
Hey, we're going to open that ass. Our backs are against the wall. We're going to open that can of ass, and we're going to dominate. That's what we're going to do. Start to finish, we're going to dominate. Start to finish.
Everyone close their eyes. Raise your hand if you're nervous. Okay, all of you raise your hands.
Do we get the W? I think we do. Whoa! Little of that, shake and bake. You know what I'm saying?
How many bars are in Athens? Do you guys know?
In the 80. I think it's the most per capita. I am underage, so I do not go downtown.
No, he's never done that.
I'm a good Christian man. I do not go downtown.
Never done that. So Athens has more bars per capita than any city in the country. So there are typical tailgates here, but a lot of the fans just go to the bars. And if the fans are going to the bars, then we should go to the bars. And if we're going to the bars, we might as well get a drink, you know, like we're at the bars. I can manage it. I believe in my heart I'm very good at holding my liquor. No one's ever actually said that to me, though, and I have no evidence to support that. I gotta tell you, this place looks very familiar. I feel very at home here.
Good job. I was told to surprise you real quick.
Whoa, do you see that, Rose? Zoom in. That's a dog. How do we feel about the game today?
My mom went to Tennessee and we haven't talked in 3 months.
But that has nothing to do with the game. We've had a lot of problems with drops this year.
So, like,
just like Graham's dad used to drop the ball in his parents' marriage.
What about my parents' divorce? Do you have thoughts on that?
I have thoughts about my own parents' divorce.
Love is dead in our families, but love is not dead with the dogs.
I love when Carson Beck actually throws it to
he throws it to your team.
He started dating one of the Cabinet twins. Carson Beck sucks. He's dating a supermodel and has a Lamborghini. He has too much money. He doesn't care anymore. That's his problem. Grow up bare nuts.
Public enemy #1 right now. Just maybe throw it to our team.
He needs to stop spending so much time with that Miami girl.
We hate Miami. Is that a collective? We all hate Miami?
Football's a team game. 22 people. He's one of them. I don't give a how he plays.
Raise your hand if they should break up.
If we lose tonight, cut ties.
I don't think you should break up with her, but maybe like put it to the side. Going back for her 5th, 6th year at Miami, so put it on pause for a second. Let's secure it. Let's secure the bag.
What is the worst fan base you all have ever dealt with?
Florida, they're jorts and they're tank tops. They're ridiculous. I mean, Tennessee, first of all, look at that guy. All right, they're a close second, okay?
I've been barked at too many times today. Grown men barking at me. I don't know how to take it down here.
I think the worst set of fans I've dealt with is Alabama. They have too many chants. I'm like, la 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 la. Narrow it down to one.
Worst fan base I've ever seen is Travis Scott fans.
Okay, yeah, that's not like 100% what I was looking for, but sure. Do you ever feel ridiculous as a Georgia fan when you bark, or no?
Oh, no, I have no regret barking at any individual.
I feel silly when other people are barking at me. You know, when it's other teams and they're like, woo, I'm like, this is what I'm used to.
If you had to guess who Dan Le Batard is, who would be your guess?
First thing I think of is Dr. Seuss.
Okay, that's a good Sure.
A wacky scientist.
I see the clips. I see the clips all the time.
What's my name?
I don't know.
Damn. Damn. That's all right. So you may be wondering, what was the fan experience like for me? Well, this is our first game that we're not media credentialed. We're just fans living it up, having a good time, and no one offered us anything, like nothing to drink. So still fun though, still a good time. And this trip was brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, use code Lucy for $20 off your first order. Terms apply. What time is it? It's game time. The seats were awesome. Thank you, Game Time.
You guys imagine that those fans are totally reasonable and content about losing a couple times this season?
No, no. But they're back. I mean,
are they? Because they're still, by percentage, they are unlikely to make the playoff. Correct? Just simply by percentage, I assume that a 3-win SEC or 3-loss SEC team is going to get in.
Well, they've only lost 2 games, right? So are you saying like they're going to lose in the SEC
I'm
championship
assuming
game?
that a 3-loss SEC team might get in anyway because of the regard that people just have for the SEC.
I was going to say like the playoff percentages, it's a committee that picks who's in. So ESPN all season, they've been putting these like, this team has a 60% chance of getting in if they do this or that. People are deciding this. What are they putting the percentage? I understand that there is like an algorithm that they've built that is predicting what they think will be the threshold for teams to get in based off their records and their schedules and how many games they've won and lost. But people are choosing this. And so there is a human element of brand favoritism in the college football playoff selection. We obviously saw it last year when Alabama got in over Florida State after Florida State's quarterback got hurt. But I don't understand how you can put a percentage on that.
Well, I don't either because I don't know what the algorithm is that they're using. And I assume that what they're doing with strength of schedule and everything else is giving you as many metrics as they can that are going to be put in front of the committee. And then the committee will decide with all that data. But the thing that I wanted to ask you guys, because in this room and I think throughout America, you have 2 different kinds of people when it comes to this sport, which is, yes, I'm interested. I enjoy it every week. And tell me who's going to be playing at the end. I'll argue about it then. And those people think the SEC is simply what it's always been. And then there are the people who are really in the weeds on watching everything that's happening every weekend, analyzing it, deconstructing the numbers of it. And those people continue to tell me that the people who aren't watching with the same dedication are appraising the SEC in a way that's more favorable than the SEC actually is when you watch the games played. The people who think they're more informed are telling you at every turn that the SEC isn't what you think it is.
They can go to hell, okay? I don't care what they think, what they want. I want the matchups that I want. I want big brands in the college football playoff. I want Mississippi. I want Alabama. I want Tennessee. I want Georgia. I want Texas. I want Texas A&M.
Mississippi a big brand?
It's an SEC team. Like I take them over.
That's a big. So then all of the SEC teams are a big brand if Mississippi's a big brand.
I mean, for the most part, I'm leaving out LSU. But I want the biggest teams and the biggest brands in the college football playoff. That's what I want. What anyone else wants, that's up to them. But I'm telling you what I want, Dan. I want to see matchups that we rarely see in a postseason environment in college football.
You're emblematic of the problem in the media, which is they're name brands because they've been around. It's the whole system is gamed for people to put out rankings at the beginning of the year and refuse to capitulate on them being wrong at the beginning of the year. And most people are working from it as the SEC is the best conference in America. I'll concede, I think it is the best conference in America, but I think it can simultaneously be the best conference in America and overrated according to its present day reputation, which was built on the 2010s when they were running everything and playing a totally different sport and having a full monopoly over it. Look, the ACC straight up has a chance to be better than 500 head-to-head against the SEC this year. The SEC has had plenty of bad losses, but for whatever reason, a loss inside the SEC with voters is considered a better loss than a loss inside a conference in other divisions. I am curious, though, what your thoughts are on what Lane Kiffin volunteered, which is there's this general notion amongst coaches, which is we don't want to make the SEC championship game. We can lose that SEC championship game, and it could maybe hurt us.
Get the bye, too, is what he wants. He's like, I want the bye.
Well, he's like, the risk of the bye doesn't outweigh potentially losing that because there is this fear. The source on the College Football Playoff Committee not penalizing you for making your conference championship game is just trust me, bro. Because if a team gets blown out in their conference title game, that is going to stay with you. These are humans making this decision. And here's another scenario in which it might actually hurt you making that conference championship game. An extra game, you shouldn't, in my mind, it shouldn't hurt you for making your conference championship game. That's an extra game that you play. But what if you suffer an injury? What if the Jordan Travis thing happens to you inside that conference championship game? The committee has already shown us that they will hold that against you.
Well, as far as the conference college football playoff arguments have gone, it's gotten so toxic so quickly. And yes, we all saw this coming, but I'm struck by the fact that we're on like week 2 and everyone it's like Big Ten fans versus SEC fans, and everyone's super angry at each other. But to go back to the conference championship point, this is something that people have brought this up since they announced the 12-team playoff, because there are teams that aren't going to play that weekend that'll get the extra week of rest that took care of business but didn't make it into the conference championship. And the conferences are so big and they are so top heavy, especially in the Big Ten, where the scheduling has Indiana playing Ohio State, but they don't have to play Penn State this year. They don't have to play Oregon this year, where, it's probably better for Indiana if they lose to Ohio State, don't play in the conference championship game, and then make the playoff.
But they have to lose a close game to Ohio State.
I don't think so.
I think they do. If they get blown out, they're not getting in.
I think that's subjective. But I think that's also, Indiana fans, if you tell them that, they're not going to be very happy with you for saying that, Stugotz, because they've won more of their games than the SEC teams that are going to get in over them.
I think anybody can beat anybody that is going to be named to the college football playoff. I think it's wide open, and I think it's great. But whatever happens in that final is going to be confirmation bias. They're going to give more lotto tickets to the SEC, and there may be one ACC team in there. And because the SEC has 3 times the opportunities to win the title, everybody will point to it and say, see, best conference in America. What I'm afraid of is let's play this out. SMU. Let's say they run the table for the rest of the year. Let's say BYU ends up being Big 12 champions. SMU goes to the ACC championship game against Miami and say they lose. Then their 2 losses are potentially to 2 teams inside the CFP that have buys. The committee's going to look at a 2-loss SMU now because they've lost in a conference championship game, and potentially a 3-loss SEC team. And I've got zero faith that they're going to look at that rationally and not apply their biases here.
The SEC team, you're not incentivized to miss the conference championship because you'll get a bye, but if you win the SEC championship, you get a playoff bye. So you advance further, and you're going to have to play those teams in the playoffs anyways.
Here's with Lane's point, they won't punish the runner-up in the SEC. The SEC doesn't have to worry about that. I get where he's thinking. I get where it's really hard for humans to deprogramming help me out here. Deprogramming themselves here.
Deprogram.
If they see a team blown out in that conference championship game.
It's funny everyone said it at the same time.
I'm sorry about that. I watched Megalopolis last night and it really just messed with me in my head.
I do think, Billy, maybe it depends. Maybe it depends
it depends on your conference too, right? Because there's conferences that you wouldn't get an automatic bye, and if you're not in the conference championship, you're probably not going to get in.
Well, no conference gets an automatic bye. I think there is some confusion about the power conferences getting the 4 bye weeks. If Boise State or Tulane or whoever the highest ranked G5 champion is higher ranked than the Big 12 champion or the ACC champion, which theoretically could happen right now because there may be a 2 or 3 loss champion in one of those conferences, they could get the bye week, which I think would be just confusing for a lot of people that thought that was going to be the automatic, like, no, if you're the Big 12, you get like BYU should get the bye week or whatever. So that's not necessarily the case.
As everything changes and we get into a situation where there is both confusion and anger about things that are subjective, I will tell you that there are very few things in products that are consumed or in entertainment that will create this amount of anger toward the product without harming the product in any way, or its consumption.
Enhances it.
Or its customer base. Yeah. Usually in any place that I'm selling you anything, if the customers are this unhappy with the imperfections in something, it affects sales. It affects the way that it's consumed. All you guys are doing by complaining about it is caring. And that is the fuel to everything in sports. Whether you're applauding the Cowboys or you're despondent today because the roof is falling in their stadium, the thing that is valued most among customers is, do they care? And all they show you when they complain about this shit is that they care more unreasonably about this than they do about almost anything else in their life when they care enough to complain.
I think it's all going to work itself out. And that's what I constantly tell myself when I encounter these scenarios in which, like the SMU one, I think we can all see that happening. And I do think, while it may not be a real problem for the SEC, by making it all the way to your conference championship, I do think it'll affect teams from the Big 12 or the ACC.
Well, this is where Jess is saying, how can you put a percentage on the algorithm if a human being's going to have to decide between I've got Georgia with 3 losses or I've got SMU with 2.
Right.
And a human being is going to make a made-for-television event of like, yeah, of course I want Georgia there. It's not even based on this year. It's based on the last 5 years. And I haven't thought about SMU since they were recruiting, Eric Dickerson with actual oil wells.
Wow.
They were offering him actual oil wells.
Yeah.
It's also humans are making the decision while conferences and pundits and all of these different head coaches and players are lobbying their case towards them all season long. I don't know if you watched Kirby Smart's interview after the Tennessee game, but he said on the side or like on the field in his post-game interview, like, this is the hardest environment to play in. I dare the committee to come down here and play in a game or something like that. Like, he was like already super fired up about the rankings, even though it's like this is like we haven't done the final ranking yet. Like, there's nothing to be that upset about after the second week of rankings. It's okay, Kirby. You guys beat Tennessee. You're going to be back in the top 12 now.
Georgia never left. I mean, they're in the playoff. I'm guaranteeing it right now. They never left the playoff. I know they're on the outside looking in, but that was just to make us talk about it.
Yes.
I mean, they're fine.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
But you know what? The SEC does have a prejudice in its favor. It's earned that over the years, right? The brand name schools have a prejudice in their favor. They've earned that too.
Sure.
If your choice is Georgia or Tulane for the 12th spot in the playoff, it's obvious you're going to pick Georgia.
You better take Georgia. Same with Miami.
And
right.
It's same with Miami. And they would do better TV
but
ratings.
It is supposed to be merit-based. I thought one of the things we were trying to do with the imperfect measurements of how it is we arrive at a champion was for sports to be merit-based. I thought sports were supposed to be fairer than all other places. We could say life's not fair, but I thought sports were supposed to be fair. I think that's why we're always complaining about the officiating after every game that's played.
Yes, 100%. I think this is the argument that a lot of fans are currently in the midst of, is that are we basing the top 12 off of what you've done this season, or are you basing the top 12 of what will produce the closest spreads for the opening round game? So, like, if you have Indiana in the playoff because they won 11 games or 12 games this season, but the spread when they play Georgia is 10.5 points. Well, they can't be a playoff team. And it's like, well, that's not what – I don't think that's why we have the committee there. I thought that the committee was to look at what teams have done. Now, again, like, the problem is there is uneven scheduling. The conferences are ginormous. You're not typically playing the best team in your conference every year. But, I mean – that's why there are 12 people supposedly to try to like balance these things out and make the best choices. And we will find out if they can do that or not this year.
The mega conferences going without divisions have really complicated things because it seems like this is going to be a problem going forward is you're going to have multiple teams gunning for a conference championship game that aren't going to have the space in their schedules to play one another. And without divisions, you're not legislating that. So it's a bit of a pickle.
So it hasn't happened yet, but I think I'm already ready for this to go back to just 2 teams. Like, just tell us the 2 teams that are playing for the national championship.
Whoever's
Bring back the
undefeated.
computers.
Yeah.
Bring back the
Let's
computers.
just have 2 teams, and then we only have maybe 2-3 teams upset about not making it to the championship, not 56 different fan bases thinking that they deserve to be in the top 12.
There's not there really isn't a lot like this where in boxing, gymnastics, the voting is subjective. It's not quite as clean as the scoreboard is the fact teller. And so this one is just going to be an eternal anger among sports fans that people who want it to be fair and merit-based are always going to lose to, hey, it's a made-for-TV entertainment thing. Like, it's made to make the customer happy. SMU, don't care that much that you're SMU because all of the biases are poured into what makes the best television product.
Right.
What gets me the most eyes, and I get why the purists, the people who actually care about college football the most are like, really? You're going to give this to the people like Stugotz who still thinks Alabama's the best team in the country and that should be 12 teams in the tournament that have beaten Alabama?
And they will, because they've gotten that fan with SMU. They don't have me. I mean, if you want to get the most possible viewers, don't put SMU in there.
Okay.
I'm telling you, right? Give me Georgia, give me Mississippi, give me anyone other than SMU. That is a big responsibility of this committee to provide me with a playoff that I want to see.
Well, if you watch an SMU game, you'd probably be like, "Oh, this offense is pretty exciting to watch. Quarterback's pretty fun." But anyways,
SMU.
my thing about college football is that there's 134 teams in FBS. 128 of them, say, give or take a few, realistically probably can't win a national championship. And we put especially with the expanded playoff, we are putting so much emphasis on postseason and the national championship. And as a college football fan for my whole life, the best thing about college football has not been who's going to win the national championship at the end of the year. The best thing about college football is the rivalries, is tailgating, is watching, players on your team get better over a season, watching, games with your friends. Like, it's all of the things that make college football separate and distinct from the NFL, where the purpose of the NFL season is who is going to win the Super Bowl. It is the biggest TV event in the world. That is not for my life been, and my team's been in the playoff twice and has been in a national championship
and
in
will
the
be
last
in again
10
this year.
years. Hopefully,
and every year.
Big game against Army this week.
I love to see a left guard develop.
But I mean, if you like football, it's fun to see a player that your coach recruited as a freshman come in and get really. Notre Dame's seen it with Xavier Watts. This is a totally random example, but he got recruited as a wide receiver, switched over to safety, won the Bronco Nagurski Award last year, came back, and he's having an insane season as the defending best defender.
Do you not see the distinction between the way you care here, though, and the way Chris does? Because Chris is
really with how Stu cares, because he's a Northeasterner that doesn't know really.
And I'm not saying I'm
Well,
right.
what does that have to do
Excuse me,
with it?
you don't know shit about college football.
No, but I know what I want to see. That's
yeah, but what
I
you want
know.
to see is antiquated. It's built on this media machine that just rewards it. You want to go back to 2 playoff teams? No, thank you, because I know what conferences those teams are going to be coming from.
Mike, what I'm saying benefits Miami. It benefits Notre Dame. Yes. Those are the teams I want to see in the playoff.
Not
every
as much.
year.
Not as much. Miami would benefit a lot more if they were in the Big Ten or in the SEC. Miami does have a brand awareness to it that SMU doesn't, because they're pretty much the same team this year. And the rankings don't bear that out. And the projections that always have Miami at number 3 doesn't bear that out. And it's pretty disrespectful to SMU, who just ran into a major conference and is now seemingly headed to Charlotte. I'm really enjoying this year. I think the games have been good. I love playoff eliminators like LSU and Florida had with LSU, because the committee always seems to reward them. I think the games have been great, and I'm really looking forward to a 12-team playoff in a year where I genuinely don't know what the best team in the nation is.
Right. Obviously, winning is important. That winning in the postseason is important. Winning a national championship is super important. But if everyone only cared about winning a national championship, there would be no fans of those other 120 teams. And those people exist. They appreciate and enjoy the sport. And so the hyper emphasis on just who is favored to win in round one of the college football playoff, I think has taken away a little bit from how fun and exciting the regular season matchups between those other teams are. Now, I think it's great that we're paying more attention to the G5 schools like Tulane and Navy this past weekend, because that was a American Conference championship decider, and Tulane smoked Navy like 35-0, and Navy's quarterback got hurt. And I like that that's part of the national conversation now, because Tulane's going to have to play Army in the conference, and it's possible if Army beats Notre Dame this weekend, they could end up in the playoff, which is insane. But I think from an argument standpoint, it has been frustrating that it's turned into a sort of like, who's got the biggest brand? I just want to see North Carolina, Kansas, Duke, and UConn in the Final Four conversation after 2 weeks of playoff shows.
And I shouldn't be that dismissive of SMU. I've been surprised, and shouldn't be, that they would have the money to get in the game last year with great defense, this year playing totally differently than they played last year, because they've been able to keep up with the spending that keeps them competitive. So I shouldn't just dismiss them, but the way that Stugotz and I think Cody are doing this reputationally with the SEC doesn't really allow a lot of space to be surprised by new blood.
Here's what I think. I love the college football playoff at 12 teams. Love it, love it, love it. And the main reason is that fundamentally I agree with Stugotz. I want the brand names. I want the legacy schools, the Alabamas, the Miamis. But I also want the alternative. I want the Indianas. I want the BYUs, the teams that would have no chance if this were still a
Chris
Final
Cody
Four.
just threw his hands up in the air and screamed, "What is happening?"
I mean, so you want everyone in,
but
so
he,
it should
he
be more
gets
than
that.
12.
But he
Yeah,
does get
okay.
the 12 team.
No, here's what I want. Okay, if it's an NCAA Final Four, I want the three great schools, okay? I want the Duke and the North Carolina, but I also want a Cinderella in there.
Right, like
okay?
Army. Yes.
And in my Final 12, in the CFP, I want all the big legacy brand name schools that are going to get the TV ratings, but I also want the 2 or 3 Cinderellas, the Indianas, the BYUs. It's the perfect blend. And the fact that we're debating all this is wonderful for college football.
You should
It's
be
great.
on the committee.
I should be on the committee.
Yeah, I think the other thing about Indiana specifically is that if you're going to, take points away from them because their schedule wasn't very difficult. Well, they did play the defending national champions, and they beat them, and it's not their fault that Michigan sucks this year and doesn't have a quarterback.
I know, but Jess, their
And
strength of
FIU.
schedule is 106th
All right,
in the country.
We'll see in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, just
we'll see
put
this
that
week
point
for them.
aside. They're on paper, their schedule looked more difficult before the season started, but you can only play the games on your schedule. They still have their hardest game of the season this upcoming weekend. But it's very difficult, I think, to make these points about this team's better than Indiana because X, Y, and Z, when Indiana, no one expected them to be this good this year. They are this good because their head coach imported a ton of transfers from his old school to Indiana. They've started meshing really well and playing really well together. And so putting any sort of it's impossible to do preseason projections for a team like Indiana this season. And so they're almost getting penalized for not, having people know how good they were going to be. And so if you're going to do that to Indiana, it'll be interesting to see if that ever happens to an SEC team that cobbles together a bunch of transfers with a brand new first-year head coach, and if they're going to get discounted for it too, because it just feels like this is a very unfair argument to make about a team that's been wildly successful this season out of nowhere.
Jess was right. You can only play the teams on your schedule. But what if you could play teams that were not on your schedule? I propose in week 10 of every season, we institute swap week.
Love it.
Every team, if they choose, can opt to swap out of the game that they have week 10 of their schedule to better their chances of making the playoffs.
Or if a team is crushing it so much that they're like, we don't even need any more impressive games, you could downgrade a game.
Well,
but
then,
I'm doing so well.
But the committee will then not only judge your performance in the game, they'll also judge how you chose to treat swap week. Yeah. Did you want to keep the same strength of schedule?
Right.
Did you want to strengthen your schedule? Did you want an easy bye week situation here?
Yep.
How would you choose to handle swap week? You don't do it at the end of the year, because at the end of the year you have the conference championships and all that, and you have some of the rivalry games. You have those things. Week 10 is prime for the picking. You make it now a thing every October, November, whenever Week 10 is. Swap week.
Well done.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Thank
you know, another option would be a team can end their season at any point in the season. In other words, if you start 5-0, you can say, you know what, I want to be judged on 5-0. Okay.
Vanderbilt would be in the playoff if they stopped their season the day after they beat Alabama.
That would be a wonderful option.
It's something the committee would have to consider.
Yeah, I mean,
last game they played, they beat Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden Miami goes, you know what? We're not going to play the last 3 games. Judge me on 9-1.
So you guys have the analysis. So Vanderbilt starts 5-0 and beats Alabama in Game 5.
We're done.
And you have the next day. Oh, you got to be careful here. Vanderbilt's going to forfeit the rest of its games.
What you don't know, you don't know, Dan. I mean,
not a forfeit. It's not a forfeit because that shows up as a loss. They just have decided we're not playing anymore.
Yes.
Why would Miami stop at 9-1 when they lost?
Well, now they wouldn't.
Because what if they lose next week to Wake Forest?
They're not going to lose to Wake
maybe
Forest.
Stop at
I think they should stop after 11-1.
No.
Right. They could lose at Syracuse.
Here's the thing. Had they gone 8-1 and they head into Week 10 swap week, then they can add an opponent there that's really going to boost their resume.
I've never seen Mike angrier.
Well, because
this
you guys,
is helping resumes.
Because listen to what's happened.
There is
okay?
no light behind his eyes.
It's not merely that we've done 20 minutes of straight sports radio. It's not just that. It's also
swap week, though,
that Greg Cody, in the middle of it, I'm pretty sure just advocated for make all the teams play at the same time. Everybody in there, throw everybody in the playoff, all 20 teams that I care about, and have them all collide into each other with Army and Navy there. Shoot off a couple of cannons, see if Cinderella runs out of there, throw a slipper in there, and just make it. Yeah, just thank you. Thank you. Okay. That's a quicker way of saying it, Roy.
Never said that, but
you're welcome.
But that's what he wants. Okay. That's all he wants is just give me a big college football gumbo and allow me to drink all day and eat poorly all day and just throw all the teams in there. Throw BYU in there, throw SMU in there with 2 losses. Let's just throw everything in the gumbo.
You know what I do want? I want schools to stop using their acronyms, their initials. I'm down on the SMUs, the UCFs, the BYUs,
LSU.
LSU. Whatever happened to Brigham Young?
Yeah.
Bring him back.
You're right. Well, it's BYU.
Well, he's dead.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Bring him Young.
It's Southern Methodist. Come
Bring
on.
him back.
What are you, the Attorney General?
You're ridiculous.
Hey.
Florida Atlantic. When did we go from Florida Atlantic to FAU?
Texas Christian.
Well, it's FIU, right? Like nobody says
that's
Florida International.
That's a different.
You know what
school.
Army is, Greg? Army is Army.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, thank you.
It's like I don't go through life demanding to be called GPC.
Yeah.
You know, quit using initials, college football teams.
What is your middle name?
Paul.
Yeah.
Okay, I forgot that. I'm sorry.
Named after my Uncle Paul.
Oh, Uncle Paul.
Yeah.
Brigham Young died in 1877.
That's right.
When
Let's
Greg
bring
was
him
born.
alive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have in front of me, Field Yates is saying that Stugotz's book is, according to Field Yates on Twitter, this is what he writes, some are calling it the greatest book ever written. Stugotz is a literary genius, a modern-day Shakespeare. Diana Russini writes, and this is where she's exposing the grift, hey, Field, he sent me one of those books, too, because Field put up a picture with your book, Stugotz's personal record book. Mm-hmm. He sent me one, too. When I opened the note, I thought it would be a personalized letter thanking us for all the years of support and love. Mm-hmm. Instead, it was an obviously photocopied note asking us to make sure to post about the book.
Yeah, tight budget. I mean,
Diana Russini shouldn't be sharing with people that that behind the scenes you are not even writing personalized notes to people who you asked to write for your book.
I have plenty of things planned for all the people who have contributed to Stugotz's personal record book. Wow. Every single one of them, and they will receive a personalized letter from me or a phone call, depending on which is easier and how busy I am. I mean,
they will.
They will.
They will.
They will.
So far, plenty of people haven't.
Yeah, look forward to it.
I didn't even get a book.
That doesn't mean they won't. They just haven't.
It's not out yet.
It kind of means they won't.
Right. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It does.
Speaking of controversial shamelessness, we have a genuine controversy around John Stamos.
What?
that I want to get to next.